Welcome to the fourth episode of This Week at LogTrade. My name is Sara Ali, and I'm the CEO of LogTrade.
And I'm Fredrik Svedberg, the founder of LogTrade. Hi, everyone.
So today we have a couple of topics to discuss around. Should I give a short brief of them, Fredrik?
Yeah, if you remember.
Yeah, of course. I'm not that old. So first of all, we're going to discuss why people choose to live in certain cities and the reason for that. Secondly, how can Apple deliver their new MacBooks when everyone else are having huge delivery problems? Going a little bit back to something we discussed in the last episode, I think. And secondly, where does all the money end up for startup, or not all the money, but a huge amount?
Interesting.
So let's start with the cities. So we have
but you forgot the most important thing we should have in the answer. I told you will not remember this.
Then I'm too old then.
Yeah, probably. I don't know, or too young. We will also talk about the lack of people doing all the job needs to be done.
Oh, that's really important.
Yeah, that's the most important. But that we will end with today. Instead of media consumption, we will talk about the people that we don't have to do all the stuff we want to have done.
Now you made me second guess my age and my statement of not being too old.
Yeah, or it's not connected. It's just your capabilities. I don't know. It's for someone else to figure out. Let's go on with this now. No one is interested about my age anyway.
Okay, let's start with the cities that are really interesting and why people choose to live there. We have a couple of them that we have defined and named. One of them is Amsterdam. We have Copenhagen. We have Berlin. And
Barcelona.
Barcelona and San Francisco, right?
Yeah. And the difference between these is that in Europe you have the ABCs.
Yeah.
And then San Francisco, who is the cousin from the country. I don't know. But this is very interesting because there is no one in Sweden actually on this list. Why? I don't know. Who should it be? Maybe Malmö.
I think Malmö is becoming that.
Yeah, it could be. It's a little bit too small and too connected to Copenhagen. So I will actually include it in what we call this Greater Copenhagen.
Now you're giving Malmö to Denmark again.
Yeah, and I will take back Bornholm in exchange.
Okay, anyway, internal Swedish thing.
Yeah, anyway. There are some common things around these cities. There are more cities of this, of course. You could probably include Manhattan and New York to this and so other. And a while ago, before they changed the government, I think we had some different cities in the Eastern Europe, like Budapest and Warsaw and so on. But since they are going with this change of government, I don't think they're like that popular anymore. Prague still is, I would guess. So that's a place where you don't have the ABCs. But anyway, these are cities that we have been looking into and defining a little bit of where will people be wanting to live in the future, especially people that, if you take Amsterdam and Copenhagen, that is the two most cities with most bikers. They always compete about this. They say it's for the environment. I say it's because no one is sober. But that doesn't care. They are still biking, because Heineken is Amsterdam and Carlsberg is Copenhagen. So they also is the world largest two producers of beer. Barcelona, I don't know so much about. You've been to Barcelona?
Yeah, I've been to Barcelona. I wouldn't say that Barcelona is a lot similar to Copenhagen and Amsterdam, to be honest. it's a little bit different aspect why I think you choose to live in Barcelona. But I tried to Google this. I tried to Google, why do you choose to live in Amsterdam, for example? And a couple of things that I got back is, one is the environment and sustainability. Secondly, people are choosing to live in Amsterdam because they are feeling it's a safe city.
Oh, interesting.
And that is really interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I would put Amsterdam of my safest city experience when it comes to my own experience. But anyway, if it is, it is.
But I think one of the biggest thing when you look at all of those cities that we have defined, and there are probably even more, is one of the topic is sustainability and the thing they are doing to decrease traffic within the city and working with environment in general. I think that is one of the big things that is common.
Didn't we have Edinburgh also in Scotland on this list?
Yeah, maybe.
I think
Could
so.
be.
I think so.
Could be.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting, and we just want to give everybody this insight, actually, that you should start thinking about where do people choose to live and why they are choosing that, because that's probably giving you some insights about where you should put your efforts and what you should invest in and what you should offer. So that's why we do it. So we are not in education of learning all the cities, if that was what you thought now, but we are trying to get these insights, why and how is the world changing. So we will see.
And especially maybe looking at, if you choose to look at San Francisco, Amsterdam and Copenhagen, those three especially, you have a huge sense of a village in a big city.
Yeah.
The whole village concept is existing. Yeah.
And they're taking care of their habitats and so on. I was in San Francisco when COVID came, as you know, and they closed down the city immediately. And I was on a flight back to Copenhagen, landed in Copenhagen, and there was nothing information about any COVID.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting how San Francisco learned from their history of being the first city discovering AIDS at that time. And no one was really listening to them. And this has been built into their society today, that they take care of everything. They even put the homeless people on the streets when COVID came. They actually emptied the hotels and put them there. I don't know how many Swedish cities that even would be able to handle a situation like that. And everybody talks about that we don't have these social responsibilities in the US. And I don't say it's good in San Francisco, it's the worst ever. But when the shit hits the fan, they are there. So you don't have to compare an everyday situation, because that is really bad for people that is homeless in San Francisco or all over the US. I don't say that. It's really, really bad. But when the shit hits the fan, they are there.
I really believe that the village, if you call it, if you would say as a concept, will be the new city. Yeah.
And a lot of scientists have talked about this. They have called it the doughnut cities. They have called it the 15 minutes cities or villages inside the cities. So everything you need where you travel besides different part of big cities before should now be reachable within 15 minutes in your close by neighborhood. And I think these kind of cities like Amsterdam, San Francisco definitely, and Copenhagen, I think Berlin too, has actually developed from that perspective originally, and now have a huge position to be a nice place for people wanting to live like this. Might be Paris also, but it's, I don't know.
So it's back to people sharing, people helping each other out, the small local bakery that we buy our bread from, the small grocery shop that we buy from, that we know the owner of. and want to
the flea
benefit.
market, the
The market.
local, everything we talk about, to have a better word, don't bring us back to move out in the woods. It's actually bring the village into the cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
It is.
So,
It
have
is.
this in mind. We will follow up.
I'm going to give this one to you because you love Apple so much.
I don't love Apple, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
you do. You love
I like, okay, it's my mistress, Mrs. Apple. Okay.
Okay, I didn't mean it that way, but Mrs. Apple, what's happening with Mrs. Apple? They are delivering. How?
Yeah, Mrs. Apple once again actually proven her capability when it comes to worldwide logistics and being the worldwide #1. So when everybody around the world, if you follow especially now the financial reports coming from all the companies doing the Q3 reports this last week and this week, you get the sense that it's complete chaos. There are no logistic systems working. Everything has been choked up in the harbors. In the US, everybody has problems because they have Halloween this weekend coming up and they don't get their Halloween stuff. Everybody in the US wants to have these nice dresses from Squid Game, you know, and they can't get it. So it's chaos. You know, when you see these comments, I need to be Deadpool this year again. Horrible. I want it to be Squid Game. But everybody has this problem. At the same time, we have huge production problems because we can't get these chips.
Yeah, there is a huge shortage, right? In the
for
microchips.
semiconductor chips, huge. Scania can't do trucks, Volvo can't do trucks, some can't do cars, washing machines, everything is a mess. At that time, Apple launches the most advanced laptop series ever last Tuesday evening. And I'm using it now to record this. A week later.
Already bought it.
Yeah, a week later.
Yeah, that's why I say
it's not that I already bought it. I bought it and it has been delivered yesterday with DHL.
Yeah.
Over. That's amazing. How a global company like this, when everybody has problems getting the stuff for Halloween, or even producing cars and trucks, are able to deliver a product that only consists of semiconductors in less than 1 week.
But do we know why?
Yeah, it's good planning. And
besides of good planning.
It's good planning. That's #1. The second thing is purchasing power. If you're the guy with most cash and you have a product that costs 5 times any competitors, because that's actually what they do. You know, the iPhone is on $2,400, something like that. You can just imagine the MacBook Pros, where they will end up in the end. And people is still buying them. You have so much purchasing power and margins that you can do whatever. But that is not completely the answer to this, because they have a culture at Apple. They have always delivered. This is what everybody is used to. They present something and everybody can get it. People were, you know, when iPhone came, people were lined up for it.
Yeah, I remember. But you know what? One of my other theory is that they must be spot on in their predictiveness as well.
They create the market already. They don't act on markets. They create the market and they have planned what the market needs, and then they plan for that. So they have probably put down efforts in bringing semiconductors to other of their product line to prioritize these MacBook Pros now.
And they must be really spot on the need they're going to have, and then reverse that for production, logistical flows, and getting back the data. And that, I think that is the key also going forward for every company.
And I also think they are very at the spots where things happen. I heard a very interesting story. If it's true or not, I don't know. But when Tim Cook took over as a CEO because Steve Jobs went sick, he collected the management team in Mountain View, and they sat down, and he asked everybody what was the responsibility area. And at one point he came to the production and logistics manager, and he said, I'm the manager of production and logistics for our supply chain from China. Mm-hmm. And the response from Tim Cook at that meeting was, what are you doing here then? And that guy flew to China immediately. And this is typical how all of these global companies actually are working. They get into the details, and they get people to be where things happens in order to figure out if something goes wrong before anyone else does. Mm. They are working like the military. Yeah. And I think if there's something we should learn if from these type of companies or their success stories, is actually go for the details and be where things happens. Don't sit home and hope. That's for church to do.
And also use the purchasing data for your whole reversed flow from production to delivery. That is really important. It is not only for marketing. It is not only for market purposes. It is also for logistical purpose and production purpose. And that is really important.
Yes, predictions.
Predictions, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we can learn. And then you can never have Apple as your benchmark, because Apple is like IKEA, world unique. So you should never have world uniqueness as your benchmark, but you should have them as an inspiration. Yeah. And learn from. But don't benchmark against them. It's impossible. And it doesn't lead you anyone. Try to find a benchmark that is very lookalike, a twin. Yeah.
Are we done with your favorite topic? Of Apple.
This week at Apple.
Yeah, this should be named This Week at Apple.
I will just make clear for everyone, we are not sponsored by Apple. I paid the full price for this MacBook Pro and the delivery cost.
That's the sad thing about it.
Yeah, could be, but we are not.
Okay, let's move to our other topic. Everyone is screaming after employers.
Yeah.
And
it's all over the place. Today, there are this exhibition at Hyllie in Malmö.
Yeah.
Where, and I think it's one of the biggest for a long time. It was actually on the news this morning. And today, when we're recording this, for everybody to understand, it's not Friday, it's actually Wednesday. So you don't start to look at the news for Friday. I'll be clear about that. It's Wednesday. Wednesday, the 27th of October.
Yeah, it is.
And numbers is one thing I very seldom is wrong about. Sorry.
Yeah. But I
27th of October. Yeah, it was 26 yesterday. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Danish employers are visiting Malmö on this exhibition in day because they are missing out like 35,000 people. They need them now, and in Malmö we have like 14% of unemployment right now. So they're trying to do a match. The thing is that even if we have 14% of unemployment in Malmö, or 7-8% in total in Sweden, we still have huge amount of lack of people. Only in the restaurant business, I think it's a couple of 200,000-300,000 that is missing.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for the US. When I was in US before COVID, the minimum wages that you paid, generally, it's a little bit difference between states, was around $13 an hour. In Silicon Valley, that was raised to $17 an hour because they couldn't get any people working in In-N-Out Burgers or McDonald's or wherever. So they raised it to $7 and they still didn't get any people there. But everybody was talking about this $17 an hour there. Today, I got the fact that Amazon is now raising the minimum wages and have included pay free time to $22 an hour. And they are now the second largest private employer in the US after Walmart. And they have now put the minimum wages to $22. This says that there's a huge lack of getting people.
Yeah, but that is the interesting thing, because there are people needing a job everywhere today. The interesting thing is that even if you raise the wages, I don't believe that that is the key to getting a person working for you anymore.
No, and that's proven also at Amazon, for instance, because even when they raise to 22, they have still problems in getting people in there. They are getting people in there, but they are not having them to stay.
Yeah.
So people are there for maybe a week, sometimes 2 days, and then they just leave. And that is not about the money. It's about the conditions, how you treat people, how you offer them possibilities to grow in the role, how you give them feedback, and also how you give them this security if you get sick or when you are on giving your child birth and all that stuff that we are so good at in the Swedish system, in the base. We're world leading on that. That needs now to be adapted if they're going to keep their people.
But I also believe the sense of sharing the same values, seeing the same vision is really important, especially if we speak about the younger generation that many have trouble to get in and to work with today because they haven't adapted to the change and shift that is happening, and the change of what do I think is important for me when I start working somewhere. Looking at a younger generation, and I know they call it Generation X and whatever. Anyway, but it's not about the money. It's about somewhere where I can belong as a person, somewhere where I'm passionate and I'm sharing a vision or sharing a value. And you spoke about some things working with the younger generation. They want a more present leader. They want feedback almost once a month and detailed feedback.
It's not that feedback when you take a coffee. It's a detailed feedback that moves you to the next step, and that you should be prepared to have at least quarterly, but maybe even monthly for some. And if you don't give them that, they are not being seen. And they leave. And this because the opportunities today are enormous for people. They can choose, and that will be more and more, because if you look to the structure of, especially in Europe, we have even more problems than the US. We are getting, in general, older and not filling up with younger. So we're going into Japan situation. So maybe we will have, I don't know, 10 free opportunities for every interesting person to choose from. That will be the competition. That will be the new oil. Everybody's talking about that data is the new oil. Apple stopped that now. Apple again, thank you. Anyway, they stopped that now, so you can't have an ad-based business, successful business anyway. You saw Snapchat was down 14% on the stock exchange for that, and Pinterest was left from being acquired by PayPal because they don't see a business model anymore for them, and so on because of this. Data is not the new oil. People and talents is the new oil, because that's what you're going to compete with. And if you look to the big tech, they know this.
It's ridiculous because it should have always been like that.
Yeah, but capitalism haven't seen it, because they have seen it as a resource, and then they found that resource.
Of course.
You know, when we were farmers, we saw the people, and then we got the machines, and then we compared the machines to people. We always do this comparison. You know, it's either people or animals. You still, when you buy an electrical car, it's measured in horsepowers. This is 420 horsepowers.
Yeah.
I don't even can relate to that. I never had a horse. I know that 420 is more than 200.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know.
I at the same time.
And machines and industrial sector has always invested in the saved amount of man hours. That's why I was into the horsepower. So when you do investments in a new factory or you buy a robot or anything, you go back to the management and the board and you say, we save 12 man hours a day. So yeah, it's time to go back to that. We need talents, we need brains, we need people, we need friends, we need a future. That's what the robots can't compete with, because they are just training doing one thing. We can the difference between a human being and a robot, or even my tomato in the future, is that they will never leave the box, because they will make the box more efficient. And the only thing we can compete with is actually create a new box.
But I just want to add upon something. Even if people want to join something and belong to something, being seen, being essential, and I think that is really important. It's not an easy job, especially looking at bigger companies, to make everyone be in the center of what they can deliver with the talent and so on, and still having 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees. It is hard. It is really, really hard. And you want to systemize it. You want to systemize, but at the same time, you can't systemize, because it's human still we are speaking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is not easy. This challenge that we're gonna have, and it's gonna increase with the next generation and next generation, I believe the challenge is gonna increase as well. So my solution to that is, I think, shift the whole process, make the younger generation the bosses, and those that have worked for a long time, let them be employees, because I think that way around would be much easier.
And I actually have an idea. If you want to employ younger people today, I don't know where younger people would be defined, and I don't define it anyway. You should offer a big cafe where they can meet their friends, a big cafe, and 3 daycare centers for the dog.
Stop.
No, this is important stuff that is an everyday problem for people.
That is what someone is already doing. Let's see.
Where will I meet my spouse in the future? On this big cafe, and who do I live with before I meet my spouse? It's with my dog. Okay,
let's. I think if you listen or
today's tip instead of media.
If you listen or watch a previous episode, you will see the reference to this cafe, because we spoke about that previously. Let's move to our last topic.
What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. I'm not that old. Okay, so our last topic. So where does most of the money, or no, not most, but much of the money end up for every startup that starts?
Yeah. And let's define a startup. A startup is a company being created from nothing normally, or with just an idea. And then a lot of people is working for very or none salaries. And sometimes they also get external capital to be invested in them.
Yeah.
And if we summarize all of this, I just heard from Professor Scott Galloway. And that's a media tips I can give you. A pod called Pivot with Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher, if you want this type of facts. 40% of the investment of all of these startups in the US and Western Europe, 40%, not 4, not 10, 40, goes to 2 companies. One with a CEO on an electrical board, Zuckerberg's Facebook, and the other one that has invested most money in getting nothing out of it, Alphabet with Google. How can they still just live on ads on Google and videos on YouTube when they have put in billions and billions and billions, and everybody's copying their model? I heard this e-handelstrender today. where they actually refer to that ICA-X and PostNord are working for the same model that Google invented for being new thinking and creating new business. And they haven't come up with anything. The only thing they have is Waymo that costs $10 billion and still is not out on the streets.
But wait a little bit. Now you ended up somewhere somewhere else.
I know. They guys get 40% of all the startups, so they can play around with electrical.
And they get it by that the investments goes for ads and marketing, both on Facebook and Google. So 40% of that investments goes to Google and Facebook.
And that has Apple now stopped.
That is crazy.
No, love Apple.
We're not gonna go back to Apple. We ended that.
They stopped the possibility for these companies to actually, if you're not on a first-person level data owner, so you have the direct data, and that actually Google has, and sometimes Facebook. It's now impossible to collect data through the iPhones anymore. You have to opt in to do that, and no one does it. So this is really changing the model, that going from something is free that the kids are used to today, but you pay with your soul because they took your data and they resell it and give you ads. That is stopped. This is probably the biggest change ever since the iPhone was invented. Yeah. Because now you can't have a business model where you sell the data or position new data in other situations dependent on behavior from something else. It's taken away from them. And they are very mad about this. I don't care about Facebook. As you know, Google is on every people's need because there are no other alternatives. We need Google, but they have to start behave. But it's sad to hear that the effort of all young people, it's not only young, it's people in my age also, starting up startups in Western Europe and the US, and that 40% of that effort, including them lowering the salaries, end up in these two companies.
We can't take away that being able to use Google and Facebook for getting your brand out or getting your products out is not a good opportunity for companies. It is a good opportunity to.
Yeah. For
the problem we have here
small
is
companies like pizzerias and everybody. It has been great for them, but at what cost?
Yeah, but that was what I was going to say. The problem is not the opportunity for the company. The problem is how Google or Facebook are using my data as a private person in order to give that power to a company. And that is the wrong in this.
Yes.
Imagine it. And you know what really surprised me is that this could be easy solved from the beginning, because it could just be a choice of me choosing whom I want to get ads from the first beginning.
Yeah. But that tool they never gave you, and they never said that that was an opportunity.
No.
It could also be an opportunity from the beginning, and especially now, to offer me for a monthly fee to use Google being ad safe.
Yeah.
It's so easy for them to do it. The problem is that even if I pay quite much, I would say that even if I would start to pay twice what I pay Netflix or Disney or HBO, it's probably just 10% of what they're getting from me right now in the other channel. And they won't dare go out to say to people that we are actually getting like $150 to $300 from you every month. So if we should stop doing this, that's the price. And $300 a month is probably the price you need to pay to get always fed. That's a huge amount of money they're making on every soul on the planet right now. And that's crazy. But anyway, Apple stopped their part.
I have a rule now. If you mention Apple in the next episode, I will contact Tim and ask him to hire you.
Okay. Put yourself in the line.
And I will send this video. Okay, great, everyone. I hope you enjoy listening to this, either watching it on YouTube or nowadays we even have the pod on Spotify and Acast, right?
Yeah, an Apple podcast.
And Apple, of course, Apple Podcast. Sorry for that. And please let us know if there is a topic that you wish us to discuss.
Or a city we should mention as a nice city to be living in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for
Thank you for listening
this
or
time.
watching.
Have a nice.
Bye-bye.